Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jenny Swabb, and my project was to try to model the effect of trees on the groundwater levels in the Flint Hills region, and then predict what would happen to the groundwater levels if the tree growth was to become more dense. I chose this as my problem because the Flint Hills region is a native tallgrass prairie that's regularly control burned to keep tree growth from encroaching on the native tall grasses. So these hills can be used for grazing of different animals. This is a photo from our field trip to the Kanza Prairie. You can see that the trees are concentrated only around the stream beds in the valley. And there aren't any trees on top of the hills. So I tried to create a conceptual model to show this, and the one on the left is of the existing conditions where there are a sparse concentration of trees near the stream beds in the valleys and no trees on the hills. On the right, I have a model of what it would be like if the tree growth densified. So there was a greater density of trees next to the stream beds and then a sparse concentration of trees on the hills rather than no trees on the hills. And later on, I translate this to different leakage zones for the computer model. Here's a conceptual model of the hydrologic processes I considered. I assumed that the evaporation stayed the same for any density of trees. I also assumed that the transpiration from the grass remained the same in any density of trees. So the only thing that was changing was the tree transpiration. I also assigned a base recharge that stayed constant for all situations, but it would change depending on the leakage I assigned for the different tree transpirations. So the first thing I did to translate my conceptual model into a computer model was to try to create the boundary conditions for the Kanza Prairie area. Here's the Kanza Prairie area. This is the regional water features I incorporated. For example, the Milford Lake, Tuttle Lake, and the Neosho River and Kansas River. I think it looks pretty good because the maximum elevation in the region is probably around 400 meters. So, and that means that my groundwater hasn't exceeded the land surface elevation at all for these boundary conditions. So that's good because we don't have any groundwater popping out on top of the hills. I assigned aquifer properties of the following. The conductivity I assigned was 3,000 meters per year. It was in the geodatabase as under clean sand. I assigned an aquifer base of 200 meters and an aquifer thickness of 300 meters. I figured 300 meters would be thick enough to model it as an unconfined aquifer. And I created a recharge zone that had a baseline recharge of 0.08 meters per year. That's based on accepted values for recharge in the Kanza Prairie region. So after inputting these boundary conditions for the regional area, I zoomed into the Kanza Prairie area and tried to model the existing conditions. To model the existing conditions, I put in the main streams in the Kanza area. This is Kings Creek and I actually don't know what this is called, but it was a bigger stream in the Kanza Prairie. And I assigned them head specifications. So, because when I tried to make them resistance specified, it made the groundwater elevations unrealistically low. This still has groundwater elevations lower than I would expect, so it might not be that accurate because right here around this part, I remember the land surface elevation is about 360 something meters, and it's showing as 357. The groundwater head is showing as 357, so 10 meters below the surface, or 20 meters in some areas below the surface. It's kind of far because from our field trip observations that it was more like 15 feet below the surface in some spots. That makes me think that 20 meters below the surface, the land surface, is kind of too far. But it's close enough. It's as close as I could get. So I also, for the existing conditions, I also modeled the trees as leakage zones around the stream beds with a leakage rate of 0.2 meters per year. So after establishing the existing conditions, I then tried to see what would happen if I increased the leakage due to more trees. So here are the new conditions for more trees. You can't see it, but I put a leakage zone that encompassed the whole Kanza Prairie area of 0.2 meters per year on top of the leakage zones that are around the stream beds. So outside of the stream bed areas, the leakage is modeled as 0.2 meters per year, and then at the stream beds, it should be about 0.4 meters per year. And you can see that the groundwater levels didn't change very much. You got a nice circle right here, and that's different from this one, but it's still 357 in this area, 357 meters. So the groundwater, to conclude this, the groundwater levels only changed a little bit when modeled as leakage zones. That increased from 0.2 meters per year around the stream beds to 0.4 meters per year around the stream beds and 0.2 meters per year everywhere else. This might change if I calibrated the aquifer properties better. Changing it to get the existing condition groundwater heads to be a little closer to the land surface. And I should maybe try placing the leakage zone that represents the trees around the streams rather than on top of them and around them. That might have affected the streams in a weird way. And another thing I could try would be to increase the baseline recharge. So sorry if that wasn't very interesting. Thank you for listening, and I guess you could ask Dr. Stewart questions if you have any for me, and I could try to respond by email. But thank you very much.